Nobody expected Euphoria to make its biggest move before the finale. Nate is dead, and suddenly everything we thought the endgame would be has changed. But here's the thing. Even after one of the most shocking episodes in the show's history, there are still huge questions left unanswered. What happens to Cassie now? Does Maddy finally find peace? Can Rue's story actually end on a hopeful note? And are there clues hidden throughout the season that reveal where all of this is heading? Today we're breaking down every major storyline that still needs to be wrapped up, the clues we've spotted along the way, and our finale predictions.
We have a feeling some of you are going to completely disagree with us. So as you're watching, let us know in the comments, what's the biggest clue we missed? And if you enjoy deep dives, theories, and finding details that most people miss, hit like and subscribe. It helps us keep making videos like this. So I think episode 7 really set up all of the main characters to kind of go one of two ways, which makes the finale really exciting because we don't know which way each character will go. I think it's kind of expected that some characters will have a happy ending or a bittersweet ending, and some will have a pretty bad ending.
A tragic ending.
So let's start with Maddy, because I think we weren't really expecting her to get out of episode 7. We actually thought she might die.
Yeah, absolutely. That was our biggest prediction, was that she wasn't going to make it out alive.
And I think this episode set two different pathways for her. One, we saw when she got fired from her day job, and her boss made a comment, now you can go off and be a modern day madame. And I think that's going to be one of the options. If Alamo dies or gets arrested by the DEA, I think Maddy would be a natural slip-in to run the Silver Slipper. We've seen her, helping lead girls on OnlyFans and kind of creating that influencer lifestyle in that OnlyFans space. And I could see her using the Silver Slipper as almost an auditioning place for that.
Yeah.
And she'd probably be a more respectful madame and treat the girls right, as opposed to what Alamo is doing.
Absolutely. And making sure that they get their breaks too.
The other way that I see it possibly going was more shown through symbolism than explicitly saying it. But when she was in Alamo's house, she leans against this, wallpapered wall with these trophy heads on them. These deer, the mounted deer head. And I wonder if that's saying that she could end up being Alamo's trophy. We definitely saw him enamored with her. He thought that she was something special. We saw how he didn't let that, stop him from making the decisions he made at the end of episode 7. But I wonder if she's going to be unable to get out from under his thumb and be his trophy.
And to me, that would be her tragic ending, because it's very reminiscent of season 1 when she was with Nate, and she was essentially his trophy on his arm. And she grew and got out of that, and for her now to end up under somebody else's rule would be very tragic for her character.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for the modern madame.
Me too. Okay, so speaking of Alamo, we have to talk about him and Lori. I think they are both set up for one of two fates, and we're likely going to see them get one of each.
Yeah, I mean, they've been setting these up all season. We've seen the tension between the two crews, building, and we've been watching the DEA slowly close in on both of them. And now we see them off together to go do this, drug run, and the DEA is waiting for them to come back so that they can bust them. So it really seems like everything's coming to a head in this final episode.
I think especially how the last episode ended with Faye screaming to wake up Wade, it really did feel like something was about to explode, and it's going to set up the next episode.
So I really see Alamo and Lori either getting busted by the DEA, or killing each other.
I think probably one is going to die and the other will get busted by the DEA.
And I think it would be great symbolism with, all of the Western imagery we've had. an old school shootout would be really cool to see. I think it's true to both the Western imagery and also, drug turf wars and all of that tension we've been seeing. I think it would be a really natural way to see that end. And maybe that all happens before the DEA even shows up.
Yeah, I could see that.
And it would really put a lot of characters in an interesting situation. Faye in the middle of it, maybe Rue still in the middle of it, maybe she gets away. That's a whole nother story.
I just can't imagine Faye in the middle of that. Like, she's got 9 lives, but even she can't survive that.
She really is a chameleon, though. We'll have to see. So you can't talk about Alamo and Lori without talking about Rue. She's the one that joins the two groups together. She's been playing both sides all season. And over the last 3 seasons, we've seen her searching for sobriety, for redemption, and finding, religion along the way. And it feels like this last episode really set up the 2 ways that Rue can go.
Yeah, either she's gonna be another name in Ellie's book, or maybe she actually gets a happy ending and finds that religious outlet she was looking for.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that backstory for Ellie and showing, how he's sponsored so many people and so many of them have died. It's a very realistic look at, what happens to a lot of people, but it is also kind of a warning for Rue. Will she be another one that doesn't make it?
Yeah, and I just have to call out that Euphoria is actually based off another show, and it did turn out in the end that the main character was already passed away.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I think it could end up she dies and she ends up another name in Ellie's book. I think that would be tragic, and I could only imagine what would happen to him emotionally. We've seen some of the strongest scenes in Euphoria are between him and Rue. I think that would absolutely break him.
Yeah, and I'm just a huge Coleman Domingo fan. From Fear the Walking Dead to Euphoria, like, if he's in it, I'm watching it.
Oh, he kills it every time.
Yeah.
The other option is, she's been on this religious journey. We're hearing all of this symbolism about Moses and, the burning bush. And she talked a lot in episode 7 about how she felt this calling and how she thinks she's going to make it. And she specifically thinks she's going to make it back to Jerusalem, Texas, where she met that family when she was coming back from Mexico. And so that really seems like that's the dream goal for her. That's the dream ending. And it seems like she'll either die or make it to Texas.
Yeah, and we do see in the preview for next week's episode, it looks like she's back at her home, like her mom's house. So is it that she is finding like a place of peace and that she is taking that more religious route? Or does it mean that she passed?
Or does it mean that Bishop hurt her mom? Because we know that he was at her mom's house, and when she was on that phone call with Rue, she seemed a little nervous. Yeah. And it felt like the camera didn't pan out, maybe intentionally. So is she going to walk into that house and see her worst nightmare? I don't even think I'd be prepared for that.
No. Her mom should be off limits.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at Lexi. Where do we think she's going to end up?
Well, she hasn't had too much story, but she has interacted with all of the characters this season, and every single time they're interfering with her work. We've seen Jules come and she got her this great opportunity with the art, and then that didn't turn out well. We saw Cassie intruding on the LA Nights shoot and trying to get the audition. We saw Maddy forcing her to get her that audition.
We also saw Rue interrupting her while she was at her house working. So yeah, it does seem like everybody is trying to get in the way of her career ambitions.
And Lexi always kind of seemed like the calm one in the group, the one that didn't really fit in. And so I wonder if age is going to show her that she's outgrown this group. I mean, we saw early in the season, Rue kept telling her, why haven't you called Fez? And she kind of just avoided the question. But I wonder if she doesn't want to be tied to these people as much anymore.
Yeah, I do hope she has that ending where she just kind of rides off into the sunset and starts over.
And the other option would be that she gets wrapped up in it, and Lexi's a little soft for the world. I don't know how that would turn out.
Yeah, true.
So last but not least, that leaves Cassie. And I think she's had one of the most interesting arcs this season, but I'm not sure where she goes from here.
Yeah, and unlike the other characters where it feels like door 1 or door 2, I'm not sure that she has so many choices.
In a way, her storyline feels complete. You know, she started with the suburban dream, she had the house, the fiance, she was worried about flowers for her wedding, and renovating her house. And then we saw the dismantle of that.
Yeah, she moved out of the big house, she had to make it on her own, do some things to make money, and then we actually saw her lose Nate in one of the most horrible ways.
Yeah, and before she lost Nate, she kind of rebuilt a life of her own. And Cassie, you know, in seasons 1 and 2, seemed as though she always needed to be in a relationship, always needed to be beside Maddy. And Cassie really seemed to come into her own, and she still had Maddy helping her to be successful, but we really saw her kind of find her niche. She found the thing that she liked.
Yeah, and to me, that's the only option she has for the ending. I think her character has been so much based on how men looked at her and how men perceived her. I can almost see her ending up as a dancer at the Silver Slipper. And whether she's under Maddy's leadership as the modern day madame, I can just see her kind of getting too much of that.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting end where they could go either way, where she's loving it and having all those eyes on her as everything she ever wanted, or she realizes that's not what she wanted. And I think that's what makes Cassie so complex, is that in the beginning it feels like we were watching teenage Cassie's dream. You know, she stole Nate from Maddy, or, you know, from under Maddy's thumb, and this kind of felt like marrying him justified that mistake. And then we saw her kind of lose all of that and build herself up, and, you know, even surprising Maddy with the way that she was able to get that post from the LA Knights guy, and, you know, everything she did to kind of get that 110,000 subscribers in the last episode.
But at the core of it, she is still codependent. When she found out that Nate was in danger and she deleted her OnlyFans account and couldn't get it back, she was on the floor crying. She couldn't think past and how she could take the next step and get out of it. She needed Maddy to guide her.
Yeah, I definitely think she's very complex. She is figuring out what she wants. She's almost stuck in high school. I think a lot of, you know, season 3 got a lot of heat, or, you know, people were questioning why the characters changed so much. Cassie felt very natural. It felt like exactly who she was in high school, just a couple of years later. Whereas characters like Nate felt completely different and not the same.
Yeah, it wasn't the same thing at all.
No. So I think it'll be interesting to see, and I think they could do anything with her, which is kind of scary.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the clues. Not theories, not wishful thinking, but actual moments from the season that could be pointing towards the finale. And let's start with the big one from the last episode, the snake.
That was definitely one of the most suspenseful moments on TV that I can remember. I was on the edge of my seat.
It was so hard to watch, just knowing kind of what was going to happen or assuming what would happen.
And we'd been seeing and hearing about snakes all season. You know, we saw Cassie wrapped in a snake. We heard Bishop telling Rue the story about the snake sizing up its owner. And see, episode 7, we saw the snake take a victim.
Yeah. And I think it has so much symbolism just in how greed can kind of consume you, how the life that Rue, Maddy, and Cassie have gotten into can tangle them up and eat them alive.
But also, I think it was a great symbol for unexpected consequences. I mean, everyone thought when Nate was buried alive, you know, the issue was going to be air. They thought that would be what would take him out. Cassie thought she had 72 hours to get the money. Turns out 72 hours didn't matter, and he didn't run out of air. the problem was something completely different. And I think that was a great symbol for how consequences can literally sneak up on you and be worse than you ever imagined.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one. Let's talk about the ofrenda photo.
Yeah, so this was actually a couple episodes ago when Cassie went to confront Maddy for lying about where she lived and what her job was. And as Cassie's in Maddy's house and they're kind of, going back and forth, Cassie picks up a photo of the two of them.
Yeah. And the ofrenda symbolism, it's usually to mourn somebody that has passed away. And I think that was Maddy's way of saying that she was done with the friendship. She doesn't trust Cassie. But we see time and time again, she does come through and help her. So it's very complex there in that she doesn't trust her. She's given up on the relationship, but there's still a little some love or heart towards the person.
And I think we spent most of this season wondering, is Maddy being genuine? Is she plotting against Cassie? And I think episode 7 put that to bed. I think the last episode really showed that she was willing to do a lot to protect Cassie when Cassie called. And so that kind of goes to show that while the ofrenda and putting the photo there was to mourn that friendship, she never really let it go. Because when push came to shove, she went to Alamo. She made a deal with the devil in a way. And she did that to protect Cassie. And I think that goes to show that that bond was a lot stronger. And we heard her keep saying, Cassie's different, Cassie's special, this one's special. And trying to kind of still be hard and be like, she's the money tree, but also she's Cassie.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the thing that Maddy fought all season. She didn't want to let her back in, but I think those two are bonded for life.
Absolutely. Even the look on Maddy's face at the wedding, I think at the surface level, you would think it's because she was missing Nate.
Yep.
But I think it was because she was kind of mourning the relationship between her and Cassie.
Yeah, and I think there was a moment when Maddy picks up Cassie after their wedding, and you see Cassie putting her bags in the trunk, and you see two little girls sitting on the sidewalk, one blonde, one brunette. And I really think that that was to show that this friendship was so deep. They were friends for a really long time. And I think that was just a nice little subtle symbolism to show that there's history. And that history kept coming up episode after episode. And I think we saw Maddy try to fight it, but I think those two are bonded for life.
Absolutely. Now I'm so excited to talk about this one. The burning Joshua tree. And I think a lot of people are looking at it, again, at face value. What does the burning tree mean? But there was a really important scene between Rue and Ali when she tells him the story and what she thinks it means. And he says, oh, like Moses, right? And I think that was very telling because if you know Moses' story, he was doubted.
Yep.
He tried to lead his people to a better place and he was doubted throughout. So I'm really curious if that's going to be some foreshadowing. Not that somebody is wrong or gets the wrong plan in place, but if they are doubted along the way and actually turn to be right.
And I think we've seen that already. I mean, we've seen Lexi question Rue's sobriety all throughout. And to be honest, I've been questioning it as well. I mean, we had that scene where she said after high school when she slipped, I haven't really been sober since. But then she hasn't seemed like season 1 and season 2 Rue, where she was, just going after her next high. And so you saw her getting those kinds of questions. And then even in the last episode, when Maddy kind of exposed to Alamo that she might be working with the DEA, Maddy was talking about that kind of stuff because she thought it was ridiculous. She didn't think it was real. So she was also kind of doubting those words that she was hearing. What do you mean black cowboys and Nazis and all these things? And she's like, in the DEA, she seemed as though she was like, oh, Rue's just telling stories. So I think it would be interesting if Rue needs help and no one believes her.
Or if Rue comes up with a plan to get out. and to go to Jerusalem, Texas, and she has to convince everyone around her.
Yeah, or are we the ones being lied to? And like you said, has she been gone the whole time? You know, a lot of the voiceovers from Rue have been in the past tense. And is it possible that this is her narrating her life from the afterlife? And is that kind of a bait and switch that was done on us? And a trick on us?
Well, I guess we'll find out shortly.
Yeah.
Those are our final thoughts before the Euphoria finale. And we want to hear yours. Which storyline do you think still needs the most resolution? Which predictions did you agree with? And what do you think will be the very last scene of Euphoria? Let us know in the comments, and after the finale airs, we'll come back and see just how right or wrong we all were. Talk to you soon. Bye.